Yoy, welcome to Golden Sadok. Yesterday we started this channel with my day one or my first day for a 30-day water fast, and this is the update for my weight loss transformation. When I weighed myself yesterday, I got 106 kilograms or 106.8 kilograms, and I would like to share with you great news. In the past 24 hours, I was able to lose more or less 3 kilograms, because when I weighed myself this morning, I weighed 103.4 kilograms, which is really great news for someone who's trying to lose weight. And I would really like to thank all of you who watched or decided to watch my video. And as you have noticed, this is a very new or a very young channel. I hope that you could help in making this channel grow. If you'd like to help make this channel grow, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you would be reminded by YouTube when I post a new video. And please leave comments, because as much as possible I'd like to keep this as conversational as possible. I would like to know what you think of my videos, and if you have any questions with regard to my water fasting or the things that we talk about on this channel, please leave a comment so that I'd be aware of what you think of my videos. Yesterday I shared with you where I got the name of my channel from. And while I was editing the video yesterday, I actually found a really good example of the language losing its purity. The salakot is actually a Tagalog term. Tagalog is the language spoken by those in Luzon, and the true or the correct term for the karaya or kinaraya word for salakot is actually sadok, as you can see on the name of this channel, the Golden Sadok. And that's the very example of what I talked about yesterday, about the language losing its purity. And we also talked about the datus, the Ten Bornean datus, and their trade with the local or with the indigenous Etas when they arrived in Panay. I am currently in the process of writing a story or writing a book, and this book would tell the story of my country before the Spanish or before the Castilians arrived. And as I am gathering resources or gathering information I can use on my story, I actually was able to read one, I don't know if it's an article or a book, but I can remember the details about it. Our local legends always taught us that the Datus came from Borneo or Brunei. Well, on this article or book I read, it mentioned of a kingdom named Panay, but it is spelled differently. And this kingdom of Panay is located in Sumatra, the island of Sumatra, and during that time in the past, they are they were under the Srivijayan Empire. When the Srivijayan Empire deteriorated, its enemies invaded, and one of those who invaded is, if I can remember it correctly, the Cholo Empire from India. And I believe that is, or I think that is where the idea of a person called Sultan Makatunaw came from those invaders who attacked this small kingdom in the Srivijayan Empire called Panay. Well, in this kingdom, as the war progressed, a number of nobles decided to escape or flee from their homeland in search of safer places to live in. And hundreds of years passed, hundreds or a couple hundreds of years passed, when a missionary from the islands of the Philippines came into Sumatra, into that place where the previous kingdom of Panay was located. And the locals in that place recognized the person accompanying that missionary, who is actually a fellow from the islands of the Philippines. They recognized the way he dressed and the language he spoke. So they told him that maybe he is a descendant of those nobles that left their country, or that left their homeland long ago, who they lost contact with. And from that, I had a theory that the 10 Datus are actually not from Borneo, but from the island of Sumatra, from the kingdom of Panay. The connections, or there are a lot of connections actually that could prove this true. The word Visayan, which nowadays would point to the group of people living in the island group Visayas. There are theories that say the word Visayas, or the term Visayan, came from the old empire, the Srivijayan, and the name of the island, Panay, only differs with how they are spelled. The kingdom was called Panay, and the island where those Datus settled is also currently called Panay. Now, whenever there are talks of nationalism or a sense of identity, they would always, or we always tell ourselves, never to forget. Never to forget our roots, never to forget where we came from. My question is, how much do we really remember? The current history lessons taught in our schools say that the history of the Philippines started when the Spaniards arrived, because they brought with them the writing system. Well, what actually is true is that long before the Europeans came into the islands, multiple groups of people have already established um, their own civilizations all over across the islands. And that is what we lost, our own identity. Because when the Europeans or the Spaniards came, they made the Philippines, basically. Even the name Philippines came from them. It's named after their king, Philip. And that is what bothers me. Many of us would want to have our own, or to would want our very own sense of identity, but most of us, or many of us, are afraid to ask the questions, who we are, who we really are. Now, based on my observations of the current state of my country, I can see a renaissance of a renaissance in search of our own identity. Right now, embers are all over the place. Many are interested in finding our old selves, our true selves. Now these embers need to grow into blazing flames, and I am one of those who would like to fan these embers into blazing flames. Let me start with offering or stating what I think is, or what I think could be a proper or a better name for the country, instead of adapting what the Spaniards gave us. Why not make our own? Many always say that the Filipino can never the main reason for the Filipino slow progress is because of colonial mentality. And one of the last chains, or one of the last connections we had with our previous colonial um, her previous colonial overlords is the name of the country. And instead of Philippines, why not call our country Pearl of the East or Eastern Pearls? Because I know that once we sever these last connections or the remnants of the colonial period is the time when my country or our country would truly rise up to its full potential. We don't even need to change anything in our national anthem because Perlas ng Silangan is already there. Another thing I would like to talk about is I remember a speaker when I was still in high school. It was a program about Independence Day, I believe, and this speaker talked about the golden sadok and or talk about the golden sadok. The term lost in translation directly refers or can be directly applied to that. Lost in translation. Because the phrase sangkasadok na bulawan could also be interpreted as a cup full of gold instead of one golden cup. Well, picture this out. Instead of an upright cup, Datu Puti, the leader of these chiefs, actually took off his headgear and made a container out of it, passed it around his fellow datus, his fellow chiefs, and they each put gold in it, and it was filled, and that cap, the sadok, was paid or was given to the chief of the Aitas, which is actually called Chief or King Marikudo. I don't know if my batchmates in high school could also remember that, but that stuck in my head, and I think that's actually what inspired me to ask questions about the origins or the past of my country, the true history of my country. And I think this video is already taking too long. I keep on talking about stuff I don't think you're even interested of. So I'll just end this video right now. Again, if you'd like this channel to grow, please support this channel. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave comments about any suggestions or questions you have for me. Right, thank you everyone. Thank you for being with me. Ihoy.